Hey guys, what's up? Excoundrel here, and welcome to my video on bots in Rules of Survival. Now, this video is designed to explain how to identify a bot first in Rules of Survival, why there are bots in Rules of Survival, and what we can expect to see from them in the future in terms of whether they're going to stay in the game or not. Now, firstly, identifying a bot in this game is pretty easy. They often are some of the only characters or players in the game that have Chinese characters, or I think they're Chinese characters, as their name. But it's not just that how you can identify them, because obviously you have to kill them to really see their name when it comes up on the death screen. They completely ignore players. They don't even try to kill players. You can see there that I just drove past one on my motorbike, then ran them over, did a sweet handbrake turn, by the way. And then you go up to it and you loot the bot as well. And when you loot the bot, you'll notice that, yes, sometimes they carry a gun, and they often have that gun equipped. But when you actually loot them, they find they have armor, they have backpacks, they have loads of other stuff that they didn't actually have equipped whatsoever. So they just keep that in their inventory somehow. And then you just steal it from them. So I almost like to view these guys as like walking loot crates. They kind of just provide almost like piñatas of loot. Now, it's quite easy to identify them because, again, like I said, they ignore you. The other thing is, if you actually start to shoot them or shoot near them, they just duck or prone. So they crouch or prone and don't do anything. They stand there, and then they wait a bit, and then they reset on their run. So they're pretty easy kills. They're basically target practice, to be honest. If you're using a gun, they're basically target practice. Now, why is it that these bots actually exist in the game? Well, developers do this quite often with multiplayer online games. You know, they try to reduce wait times for new games by introducing bots, especially in a game like this that is really very ambitious. A game like this that requires 120 people to play on a mobile in an online battle arena. Not only does it reduce the likelihood of connection problems with a lot of the players, but it means that new players, especially when you've just released a game, can actually get into a game. There's nothing worse, especially of a game of this size, when you've just released it and there's no one that can find a game. You know, you need 120 people queuing at the same time to find a game. You've just released the game, and you need a consistent player base. You know, you're unlikely to have people stay with the game if every time they queue it takes 15 minutes to find, a total game at your level. You know, you're queuing. You initially buy the game, your very first game, and you queue and you wait 15 minutes, and you're like, well, this sucks because, I've just spent 15 minutes waiting to actually find a game. And then when you get into game, it's like 25 to 30 minutes long anyway, and you've just spent 45 minutes playing one mobile game, which, as I've talked about in previous videos, mobile games are developing. Things like Vainglory are trying to make it so that like longer games on a mobile are kind of accepted and kind of more normal because they're trying to be a bit more like PC games. But, when you have a kind of a game that's supposed to be fun, heavy action, like this, there's quite a lot of action in this game. You don't want to be waiting like 15 minutes to find a game, and loads of people need to be queuing at the same time. So what they do is they add these bots, and these bots help newer players, especially when the game has just been released, actually get into a game. Yeah, okay, the bots might run around and do nothing, and there might be target practice, but especially if you aren't aware of how bots act in games, especially for the newer sort of more naive player, they'll think, whoa, actually this is really cool, like I've just killed someone and I've got a kill and it's really awesome and I feel like I'm having success at this game. So it kind of has a double whammy that if you're not aware that they're bots, you feel like you got a kill, and obviously that's kind of exhilarating. This is kind of what the game has its hook on. Getting kills in the Battle Royale mode is kind of like, whoa, yeah, no, wow, I'm not an awful person at this game. I'm actually good at a game, yay. And that's kind of what bots will offer for people who are less aware. But for people who are aware, all the bots are doing are basically meaning that you can actually get into a game. So when the circle gets to a very small area, you're likely going to be facing up against other people. So bots in this game will just run around the edge of the map, and you'll find that sometimes when you get to the very sort of inner circles, maybe the second or third circle, there's like 40 people left, and there's like a lot of people for this kind of circle. And in this game specifically, I noticed this when I was recording this game. When we got to like the third circle, there was still like 35 people left. And I was saying in my head, like, we're in a very small circle for 35 people. I should be seeing people around me. And then suddenly, 20 people died at once. And that was just outside the circle. All of them were Chinese characters. So now I'm here sitting assessing, like, how many people in my solo 120-player Battle Royale are actually bots. Like, how many people are real people and how many people are actually bots? And I think based on playing quite a few games of this and on conservative estimates, I would say probably just around half, maybe just under half of the players in this game are likely bots. When it comes to changing that, it's up to the developer to analyze their player base and how quickly people are matching into games. Because I match into games very quickly right now. Now, obviously, I've got to match into at least half real people. So, obviously, there's going to be at least another 59 people that, well, at least what I think is another 59 people matching at the same time. So, what this likely is that Rules of Survival didn't know how popular their game would be on release. They wanted to make sure that people who actually bought the game would find a game to play. And then they're eventually just going to turn the bot function off completely. Once they think they've got enough of a player base to find consistent 120 player matches, even if the wait time goes up to maybe 6 or 7 seconds, because right now it's about 3. If the wait time goes up to about 6 or 7 seconds, that's okay. So it's up to them to use their analytics to then think about when they need to turn off this bot feature, because eventually you're going to have to turn it off because it will get frustrating for people who want to play frequently. Also, you know, it really depends what you want from the game. Do you want to have a challenge where, yes, there might be less people in a game, you might not have to fight as many people early on, but when it comes to the circle, everybody that you kill is going to be another person? Or do you just like getting kills? Do you just like saying, well, actually I got 6 kills this game. It doesn't matter if 5 of them were bots, it still looks like I got a great number of kills. Because I actually genuinely think a lot of people play this game. Like, the Google trend for this game is really high. A lot of people are generally quite interested in it. They look like they're trying to optimize it as much as possible in the coming weeks and months. So eventually you'd consider that they'd probably get rid of these bots because there's no real necessity for them. But right now, it really feels like over half the game, especially in a solo game, feel to be bots. It seems to be less in solos and squads. I think maybe sort of a quarter to a fifth, because they don't actually squad up. They kind of just run around individually and you kill them instantly. So then they all kind of queue without matching into teams and then just run around like they do in this game to make up the numbers. But is making up the numbers a good thing? Like, I think that's what I would like to hear from you in the comments. Do you think that making up the numbers is important? Do you just like having short queue times and it doesn't bother you that there are these bots that run around and do nothing? Or do you genuinely like to feel like everybody that you face up against is going to provide a challenge and is going to think like a human, and therefore it feels more rewarding when you get the kill? I don't know what I prefer personally. I think I quite like to have a challenge. I think I quite like to think that every time I've killed someone, it's been a genuine piece of skill on my part. You can see here, like, you know, these guys are obviously fighting each other. They're both humans, and I'm trying to pick them off from the very far away. Just a side note, guys, this game has no bullet drop. So if you're ever worried about firing at people from long range, well, as far as I can see, there's no bullet drop. If you're ever worried about firing at people from long range, especially with the AK, like, you can just aim your crosshair on them and kill them. So this is not an uncommon tactic, like I said, for a lot of mobile games developers. When you are developing a mobile game, especially when it's a new online multiplayer mobile game, when the first initial downloads come through, and obviously you've done your marketing, you've sort of got people to download your game, but you haven't got an insane amount of players right now. You expect, like, through word of mouth or through influencer marketing, that it's going to grow. You often do this, like a lot of developers, especially Chinese developers, because they kind of just have the technology to do it and the resources. They put in features where, you know, they just have bots match into games just so that you have a game to play. Because there's no point downloading a game and then you find that you just don't have enough people to match into a game, especially a game like this where you require 120 unique individuals to play a full round of solo. You'll find that, you know, the bots, when they get added, they are there simply to allow new players and players that have just downloaded the game when it gets released to find a match. So this is a feature that, you know, is often just opened up on release and then is kind of phased out once the player base increases. But to me, from watching Rules of Survival in the lobby and seeing the amount of people chat, I feel like there's been a really big uptake of this game. I feel like a lot of people have started playing it, a lot of people really enjoy it, and sort of the need for the bots may be starting to become a little less important. But I guess this is something that we might see zone out over the next few months if people continue to play, and you'll eventually find that it will just be 120 unique individuals match. But this is just a tactic that a lot of developers use simply to basically allow new players to actually find games. And that's probably the most important part, because there's no point downloading a multiplayer online game that has no single player function and you just don't find a game because nobody's playing. So it's kind of a necessary evil in some ways, I would say. But I just wanted to bring it to people's attention in case you've ever wondered what those weird Chinese character sort of named players are that are running around. They are bots, and they are simply there, and they're usually put in at the start of a multiplayer game to allow new players to actually find a game and experience the game itself. They will eventually, I assume, get phased out. I'll see you soon.